Good day everyone. Today I will discuss about Philippine Quality Award. What is Philippine Quality Award? The Philippine Quality Award or PQA is an integrated approach for performance management that sets the standard of excellence to help Philippine organizations achieve world-class performance. It provides an internationally comparable framework and criteria, patterned from the Malcolm Baldrige National Quality Award of the U.S. for assessing organizational performance. It is a template for competitiveness based on the principles of total quality management. In addition, the PQA is the highest level of national recognition for exemplary organizational performance. It is not an award for product or service quality, but for a quality management system which hinges on improvement in the delivery of products and/or services and provides a way of satisfying and responding to customers' needs and requirements. Established through Executive Order No. 448, issued by President Fidel V. Ramos on October 3, 1997, the award is given to organizations in the private and public sectors which excel in quality and productivity. It was institutionalized through the signing of Republic Act No. 9013 on February 28, 2001, also known as the Philippine Quality Award Act. Why was the award established? The adoption of the National Action Agenda for Productivity, or NAAP, in 1996 as a comprehensive strategy to sustain socio-economic growth provided the impetus to intensify productivity and quality improvement efforts in the country. This was further hastened by increasing globalization, which is raising quality standards all over the world. The PQA was established as a specific strategy for the NAAP to promote quality excellence in private and public sector organizations and to provide an internationally comparable framework and criteria for assessing organizational performance and in recognizing quality excellence. It also aims to promote sharing of information and benchmarking of best practices and results among organizations pursuing quality improvement. Which organizations may apply for the award? Companies or organizations from the private and public sectors located and operating in the Philippines may be eligible to apply for the award, and these include the following. For private sector regardless of size, manufacturing companies, agricultural producers, service companies, construction companies, non-profit organizations other than public sector, and other industries. For the public sector, departments, bureaus, and attached agencies, government-owned and controlled corporations, government financial institutions, state community universities and colleges, state community hospitals, local government units, and other government agencies. Who are involved in the award process? The PQA program is a public-private partnership involving the following: President of the Republic of the Philippines, Patron of the award who approves, announces, and personally confers PQA on national recipients, Department of Trade and Industry Secretary, award manager that is responsible for the conduct of the awards process and validates and endorses to the President the list of awardees selected by the Board of Judges. PQA Executive Committee, the policy-making body of the PQA to ensure the integrity of the award system. Management Committee, implementing arm and secretariat of the PQA Committee chaired by the Department of Trade and Industry Competitiveness Bureau or DTI-CB. Department of Trade and Industry Competitiveness Bureau, implementing agency of the PQA program that provides necessary technical and administrative support to the award manager and PQA committee. Award administrators for private sector and public sector. screen PQA applications and facilitate the review process, and assist in the promotion of the PQA program. Board of Judges reviews the feedback reports prepared by the team of assessors and recommends to the award manager the appropriate award recognition to be given to applicant organization. Team of assessors conducts independent assessment, consensus review, and site visit verification, prepare and submit the feedback report to the Board of Judges and applicant organization through the award administrator. The award focuses on results, including customer satisfaction. It is not an award for product quality or service quality, but for a quality management system which hinges on a continuous improvement in the delivery of products and/or services, and provides a way of satisfying and responding to customers' needs and requirements. The requirements of the criteria for performance excellence are embodied in 7 categories as follows: leadership, strategy, customers, measurement analysis and knowledge management, workforce, operations, results. How are award recipients selected? All applicant organizations will undergo the following PQA assessment processes: eligibility determination. Organizations that intend to vie for the award are required to submit an accomplished eligibility determination form that can be downloaded from the PQA website and submit to the PQA administrator. The submitted form will be reviewed by the administrator to identify eligibility of the organizations to apply for the award based on the set guidelines and policies. Stage 1: Independent Review. The assessment process begins with the independent review, in which each member of the team of assessors is assigned to each of the applicants and conduct a desk review of the submitted application report. Step 2: Initial Consensus Review. The team of assessors conducts a series of meetings to reach consensus on comments that capture the team's collective view of the applicant's strengths and opportunities for improvement. In the process, the team decides the score for each item and identifies the issues to clarify and verify if the applicant is selected for a site visit. Stage 3: Site Visit Review. Applicants are selected to receive a site visit during the PQA pre-site visit review by the Board of Judges. Site visits are conducted for selected applicants to clarify uncertain points in the application and to verify that the information provided in the application is accurate. Stage 4: Final Judges Review. The final consensus scorebook of organizations receiving a site visit is forwarded to the Board of Judges, who makes final recommendations on which organizations will be recognized in any of the 4 PQA levels of recognition. The results of the judging process will be endorsed by the award manager to the Office of the President of the Philippines for final approval and concurrence. What does an organization receive if it is an award recipient? The PQA is given annually to qualified organizations in the private and public sectors which have demonstrated any of the following levels of performance. First, Philippine Quality Award for Performance Excellence. High Level of Excellence, National and Global Role Model. Second, recognition for mastery in quality management, demonstrated superior results, role model in the Philippines. Third, recognition for proficiency in quality management, achieved significant progress in building sound process. Fourth, recognition for commitment to quality management, just beginning quality journey, planted seeds of quality and productivity. There are different types of performance excellence, but we will just focus on the education criteria. The performance system consists of the 6 categories. These categories define your processes and the results you achieve. Performance excellence requires strong leadership and is demonstrated through outstanding results. Those categories are highlighted in the figure on the next slide. The word integration at the center of it shows that all the elements of the system are interrelated. Here you can see that indeed integration is at the center of the figure, and there are 6 categories which are interrelated. The center horizontal arrowhead shows the critical linkage between the leadership triad, categories 1, 2, and 3, and the results triad, categories 5, 6, and 7, and the central relationship between the leadership and results categories. The center vertical arrowheads point to and from the system foundation, which provides information on and feedback to key processes and the organizational environment. Education criteria for performance excellence. Begin with the organizational profile. The organizational profile is the most appropriate starting point for self-assessment and for writing an application. It is critically important for the following reasons. First, it helps you identify gaps in key information and focus on key performance requirements and results. You can use it as an initial self-assessment if you identify topics for which conflicting, little, or no information is available. Use these topics for action planning. It sets the context for and allows you to address unique aspects of your organization in your responses to the education criteria requirements in category 1 to 7. The organizational profile is a snapshot of your organization, the key influences on how it operates and your competitive environment. Organizational description. What are your key organizational characteristics? In your response, answer the following questions. A. Organizational environment. First, educational program and service offerings. What are your main educational program and service offerings? What is the relative importance of each to your success? What mechanisms do you use to deliver your educational programs and services? Second, mission, vision, and values. What are your stated mission, vision, and values? What are your organization's core competencies? And what is their relationship to your mission? Third, workforce profile. What is your workforce profile? What recent changes have you experienced in workforce composition or your workforce needs? What are your workforce or faculty, staff groups, and segments? The educational requirements for different faculty, staff groups, and segments, and the key drivers that engage them in achieving your mission and vision. What are your organized bargaining units? What are your organization's special health and safety requirements? Fourth, assets. What are your major facilities, technologies, and equipments? Fifth, regulatory requirements. What is the regulatory environment under which you operate? What are the key applicable occupational health and safety regulations, accreditation, certification or registration requirements, education industry standards, and environmental, financial, and educational program and service regulations? B. Organizational relationships. First, organizational structure. What are your organizational structure and governance system? What are the reporting relationships among your governance board, senior leaders, and parent organization as appropriate? Second, students, other customers, and stakeholders. What are your key market segments, student and other customer groups, and stakeholder groups as appropriate? What are the key requirements and expectations of your educational programs and services, student and other customer support services and operations? What are the differences in these requirements and expectations among market segments, student and other customer groups, and stakeholder groups? Third, suppliers and partners. What are your key types of suppliers, partners, and collaborators? What role do they play? In work systems, especially in producing and delivering your key educational programs and services and your student and other customer support services, and in enhancing your competitiveness, what are your key mechanisms for two-way communication with suppliers, partners, and collaborators? What role, if any, do these organizations play in contributing and implementing innovations in your organization? What are your key supply chain requirements? Organizational situation. What is your organization's strategic situation? In your response, include answers to the following questions. A. Competitiveness environment. First, competitive position. What is your competitive position? What are your relative size and growth in your education sector or the markets you serve? How many and what types of competitors do you have? Second, competitiveness changes. What key changes, if any, are affecting your competitive situation, including changes that create opportunities for innovation and collaboration as appropriate? Third, comparative data. What key sources of comparative and competitive data are available from within the education sector? What key sources of comparative data are available from outside the education sector? What limitations, if any, affect your ability to obtain or use this data? B. Strategic context. What are your key strategic challenges and advantages in the areas of educational programs and services, operations, societal responsibilities, and workforce? C. Performance improvement system. What are the key elements of your performance improvement system, including your processes for evaluation and improvement of key organizational projects, and processes? We will now discuss the first criterion, which is leadership of 120 points. The leadership category asks how senior leaders' personal actions guide and sustain your organization. It also asks about your organization's governance system and how your organization fulfills its legal, ethical, and societal responsibilities. Senior leadership. How do your senior leaders lead the organization? 70 points. A. Mission, vision, and values. First, vision and values. How do senior leaders set your organization's vision and values? How do senior leaders deploy the vision and values through your leadership system? To the workforce, to key suppliers and partners, and to students, other customers, and other stakeholders as appropriate. How do senior leaders' personal action reflect a commitment to those values? Second, promoting legal and ethical behavior. How do senior leaders' actions demonstrate their commitment to legal and ethical behavior? How do they promote an organizational environment that requires it? Third, creating a successful organization. How do senior leaders' actions build an organization that is successful now and in the future? How do they create an environment for the achievement of your mission, improvement of organizational performance, performance leadership, organizational learning, and learning for people in the workforce? How do they create a workforce culture that delivers a consistently positive experience for students and other customers and that fosters customer engagement? How do they create an environment for innovation and intelligent risk-taking, achievement of your strategic objectives, and organizational agility? And how do they participate in succession planning and the development of future organizational leaders? B. Communication and organizational performance. First, communication. How do senior leaders communicate with and engage the entire workforce, students, and other key customers? How do they encourage frank two-way communication, including effective use of social media when appropriate? Communicate key decisions and needs for organizational change? And how do they reinforce high performance and a focus on students, other customers, and student learning by taking a direct role in motivating the workforce, including by participating in reward and recognition programs. Second, focus on action. How do senior leaders create a focus on action that will achieve the organization's mission? How do senior leaders create a focus on action that will improve the organization's performance, achieve innovation and intelligent risk-taking, and attain its vision? Identify needed actions, and how do senior leaders, in setting expectations for organizational performance, include a focus on creating and balancing values for students, other customers, and other stakeholders. Governance and societal responsibilities. How do you govern your organization and fulfill your societal responsibilities? And that is for 50 points. In your response, include answers to the following questions. Organizational governance. First, governance system. How does your organization ensure responsible governance? How do you review and achieve the following key aspects of your governance system? Accountability for senior leaders' action, accountability for strategic plans, fiscal accountability, transparency in operations, selection of governance board members and disclosure policies for them as appropriate, independence and effectiveness of internal and external audits, protection of stakeholder and stockholder interest as appropriate, succession planning for senior leaders. Second, performance evaluation. How do you evaluate the performance of your senior leaders, including the chief executive and your governance board? How do you use performance evaluations in determining executive compensation? How do your senior leaders and governance board use these performance evaluations to advance their development and improve both their own effectiveness as leaders and that of your board and leadership system as appropriate? Legal and ethical behavior. First, legal, regulatory, and accreditation compliance. How do you anticipate and address public concerns with your educational programs and services and your operations? How do you address any adverse societal impacts of your educational programs and services and your operations? How do you anticipate public concerns with your future programs and services and your operations? And how do you prepare for these impacts and concerns proactively, including through conservation of natural resources and effective supply chain management process as appropriate? What are your key compliance process, measures, and goals for meeting and surpassing regulatory, legal, and accreditation requirements as appropriate? What are your key processes, measures, and goals for addressing risk associated with your educational programs and services and your operations? Second, ethical behavior. How do you promote and ensure ethical behavior in all interactions? What are your key processes, measures, or indicators for enabling and monitoring ethical behavior in your governance structure throughout your organization and in interactions with your workforce, students, other customers, partners, suppliers, and other stakeholders? How do you monitor and respond to breaches of ethical behavior? C. Societal responsibilities. First, societal well-being. How do you consider societal well-being and benefits as part of your strategy and daily operations? How do you contribute to societal well-being through your environmental, social, and economic systems? Second, community support. How do you actively support and strengthen your key communities? What are your key communities? How do you identify them and determine area of organizational involvement, including areas that leverage your core competencies? How do your senior leaders, in concert with your workforce, contribute to improving these communities? Let us now discuss the second criterion, which is strategy, for 85 points. The strategy category asks how your organization develops strategic objectives and action plans implements them, changes them if circumstances require, and measures progress. 2.1 Strategy Development. How do you develop your strategy? That's 45 points. In your response, include answers to the following questions. First, letter A, strategy development process. First, strategic planning process. How do you conduct your strategic planning? What are the key process steps? Who are the key participants? What are your short and longer term planning horizons? How are they addressed in the planning process? How does your strategic planning process address the potential need for transformational change and prioritization of change initiatives, organizational agility and operational flexibility? Second, innovation. How does your strategy development process stimulate and incorporate innovation? How do you identify strategic opportunities? How do you decide which strategic opportunities and intelligent risk for pursuing? What are your key strategic opportunities? Third, strategy considerations. How do you collect and analyze relevant data and develop information for your strategic planning process? In this collection and analysis, how do you include these key elements? Your strategic challenges and strategic advantages, risk to your organization's future success, potential changes in your regulatory environment, potential blind spots in your strategic planning process and information, your ability to execute the strategic plan. Fourth, work systems and core competencies. What are your key work systems? How do you make work system decisions that facilitate the accomplishment of your strategic objectives? How do you decide which key processes will be accomplished by external suppliers and partners? How do those decisions consider your core competencies and the core competencies of potential suppliers and partners? How do you determine future organizational core competencies and work systems? Strategic objectives. First, key strategic objectives. What are your organization's key strategic objectives and timetable for achieving them? What are your most important goals for these strategic objectives? What key changes, if any, are planned in your educational programs and services, customers, and market suppliers and partners and operations? Second, strategic objective considerations. How do your strategic objectives achieve appropriate balance among varying and potentially competing organizational needs? How do your strategic objectives address your strategic challenges and leverage your core competencies, strategic advantages, and strategic opportunities? Balance short and longer term planning horizons and consider and balance the needs of all key stakeholders. B. Strategy implementation. How do you implement your strategy for 40 points? In your response, include answers to the following questions. A. Action plan development and deployment. First, action plans. What are your key short and longer term action plans? What is their relationship to your strategic objectives? How do you develop your action plans? Second, action plan implementation. How do you deploy your action plans? How do you deploy your action plans to your workforce and to key suppliers, partners, and collaborators as appropriate to ensure that you achieve your key strategic objectives? How do you ensure that you can sustain the key outcomes of your action plans? Third, resource allocation. How do you ensure that financial and other resources are available to support the achievement of your action plans while you meet current obligations? How do you allocate these resources to support the plans? How do you manage the risk associated with the plans to ensure your financial viability? Fourth, workforce plans. What are your key workforce plans to support your short and longer term strategic objectives and action plans? How do the plans address potential impacts on your workforce members and any potential changes in workforce capability and capacity needs? Fifth, performance measures. What key performance measures or indicators do you use to track the achievement and effectiveness of your action plans? How does your overall action plan measurement system reinforce organizational alignment? 6. Performance projections. For these key performance measures or indicators, what are your performance projections for your short and longer term planning horizons? How does your projected performance of these measures or indicators compare with your projections of the performance of your competitors or comparable organizations and with key benchmarks as appropriate? If there are gaps in performance against your competitors or comparable organizations, how do you address them? B. Action plan modification. How do you wish and implement modified action plans if circumstances require a shift in plans and rapid execution of new plans? Let us now discuss the third criterion, which is customers, for 85 points. The customers category asks how your organization engages its students and other customers for long-term market success, including how your organization listens to the voice of the customer, builds relationships with students and other customers, and uses student and other customer information to improve and to identify opportunities for innovation. 3.1 Voice of the customer. How do you obtain information from your students and other customers? That's for 40 points. In your response, include answers to the following questions. A. Listening to students and other customers. First, current students and other customers. How do you listen to, interact with, and observe students and other customers to obtain actionable information? How do your listening methods vary for different student groups, other customer groups, or market segments? How do you use social media and web-based technologies to listen to students and other customers as appropriate? How do your listening methods vary across the stages of students and other customers' relationships with you? How do you seek immediate and actionable feedback from students and other customers on the quality of educational programs and services, student and other customer support, and transactions? Second, potential students and other customers. How do you listen to potential students and other customers to obtain actionable information? How do you listen to former potential and competitor students and other customers to obtain feedback on your educational programs and services, student and other customer support, and transactions as appropriate? B. Determination of student and other customer satisfaction and engagement. First, satisfaction, dissatisfaction, and engagement. How do you determine student and other customer satisfaction, dissatisfaction, and engagement? How do your determination methods differ among your student and other customer groups and market segments as appropriate? How do your measurements capture actionable information to use in exceeding your students and other customers' expectations and securing your students and other customers' engagement for the long term? Second, satisfaction relative to competitors. How do you obtain information on your students and other customers' satisfaction with your organization relative to other organizations? How do you obtain information on your students and other customers' satisfaction relative to their satisfaction with your competitors and relative to the satisfaction of students and other customers of other organizations that provide similar programs and services or to education sector benchmarks as appropriate? Third, customer engagement. How do you engage students and other customers by serving their needs and building relationships? That's for 45 points. In your response, include answers to the following questions. A. Program and service offerings and student and other customer support. First, program and service offerings. How do you determine educational program and service offerings? How do you determine students' other customer and market needs and requirements for educational program and service offerings? Identify and adapt programs and service offerings to meet the requirements and exceed the expectations of your student and other customer groups and market segments. And how do you identify and adapt program and service offerings to enter the new market, to attract new students and other customers, and to create opportunities to expand relationships with current students and other customers as appropriate? Second, student and other customer support. How do you enable students and other customers to seek information and support? How do you enable them to obtain educational programs and services from you? What are your key means of student and other customer support, including your key communication mechanisms? How do they vary for different student and other customer groups or market segments? How do you determine your students and other customers' key support requirements? And how do you deploy these requirements to all people and processes involved in student and other customer supports? Third, student and other customer segmentation. How do you determine your students and other customers groups and market segments? How do you use information on students, other customers, markets, and educational program and service offerings to identify current and anticipate future student and other customer groups and market segments? Consider competitors, students, and other customers, as well as other potential students, other customers, and markets in this segmentation. And how do you determine which student and other customer groups and market segments to emphasize and pursue for growth? B. Student and other customer relationships. First, relationship management. How do you build and manage relationships with students and other customers? How do you market, build, and manage relationships with students and other customers to acquire students and other customers and build market share, manage and enhance your image or brand, retain students and other customers, meet the requirements, and exceed their expectations in each stage of the relationship with you, and increase their engagement with you? How do you leverage social media to manage and enhance your image or brand to the enhance student and other customer engagement and students and other customers' relationships with your organization as appropriate? Second, complaint management. How do you manage students and other customers' complaints? How do you resolve complaints promptly and effectively? How does your management of these complaints enable you to recover your students and other customers' confidence, enhance their satisfaction and engagement, and avoid similar complaints in the future? Let us now discuss the fourth criterion, which is measurement, analysis, and knowledge management for 90 points. The measurement, analysis, and knowledge management category asks how your organization selects, gathers, analyzes, manages, and improves its data, information, and knowledge assets, how it learns and how it manages information technology. The category also asks how your organization uses review findings to improve its performance. 4.1 Measurement, Analysis, and Improvement of Organizational Performance. How do you measure, analyze, and then improve organizational performance for 45 points? A. Performance management. First, performance measures. How do you use data and information to track daily operations and overall organizational performance? How do you select, collect, align, and integrate data and information to use in tracking daily operations and overall organizational performance? And how do you track progress on achieving strategic objectives and action plans? What are your key organizational performance measures, including key, short, and longer-term financial measures? How frequently do you track these measures? Second, comparative data. How do you select and effectively use comparative data and information? How do you select and effectively use key comparative data and information to support operational decision-making? Third, student and other customer data. How do you use voice of the customer and market data and information? How do you select and effectively use voice of the customer and market data and information, including aggregated data and complaints, to build a more student-focused culture and to support operational decision-making? And how do you use data and information gathered through social media as appropriate? Fourth, measurement agility. How do you ensure that your performance measurement system can respond to rapid or unexpected organizational or external changes? B. Performance analysis and review. How do you review your organization's performance and capabilities? How do you use your key organizational performance measures as well as comparative and customer data in these reviews? What analysis do you perform to support these reviews and ensure that conclusions are valid? How do your organization and its senior leaders use these reviews to: first, assess organizational success, competitive performance, financial health, and progress in achieving your strategic objectives and action plans. Second, respond rapidly to changing organizational needs and challenges in your operating system. And third, including any need for transformational change in organization structure and work systems. How does your governance board reviews the organization's performance and its progress, strategic objectives, and action plans if appropriate? C. Performance improvement. First, best practices. How do you share best practices in your organization? How do you identify organizational units or operations that are high performing? How do you identify their best practices for sharing and implement them across the organization as appropriate? Second, future performance. How do you project your organization's future performance? How do you use findings from performance reviews and key comparative and competitive data in projecting future performance? How do you reconcile any differences between these projections of future performance and performance projections developed for your key action plans? Third, continuous improvement and innovation. How do you use your findings from performance reviews to develop priorities for continuous improvements and opportunities for innovation? How do you deploy these priorities and opportunities to faculty, staff, other work group, and functional level operations? And, when appropriate, to your feeder or receiving schools, supplier, partners, and collaborators to ensure organizational alignment. 4.2, Knowledge Management Information and Information Technology. How do you manage your organizational knowledge, assets, information, and information technology infrastructure for 45 points? In your response, include answers to the following questions. A. Organizational knowledge. First, knowledge management. How do you manage organizational knowledge? How do you collect and transfer workforce knowledge? Blend and correlate data from different sources to build new knowledge. Transfer relevant knowledge from and to students, other customers, suppliers, partners, and collaborators, and assemble and transfer relevant knowledge for use in your innovation and strategic planning processes. Second, organizational learning. How do you use your knowledge and resources to embed learning in the way your organization operates? B. Data information and information technology. First, data and information quality. How do you verify and ensure the quality of organizational data and information? How do you manage electronic and other data and information to ensure their accuracy and validity, integrity and reliability and currency? Second, data and information security. How do you ensure the security of sensitive or privileged data and information? How do you manage electronic and other data and information to ensure confidentiality and only appropriate access? How do you oversee the cybersecurity of your information system? Third, data and information availability. How do you ensure the availability of organizational data and information? How do you make needed data and information available in a user-friendly format and in a timely manner to your workforce, suppliers, partners, collaborators, students, and other customers as appropriate? Fourth, hardware and software properties. How do you ensure that hardware and software are reliable, secure, and user-friendly? Fifth, emergency availability in the event of an emergency. How do you ensure that hardware and software systems and data and information continue to be secure and available to effectively serve the students, other customers, and organizational needs? Let us now discuss the fifth criterion, which is workforce, for 85 points. The workforce category asks how your organization assesses workforce capability and capacity needs and builds a workforce environment conducive to high performance. The category also asks how your organization engages, manages, and develops your workforce to utilize its full potential in alignment with your organization's overall organizational needs. 5.1, Workforce environment. How do you build an effective and supportive workforce environment for 40 points? In your response, include answers to the following questions. A. Workforce capability and capacity. First, capability and capacity. How do you assess your workforce capability and capacity needs? How do you assess the skills, competencies, certifications, and staffing levels you need? Second, new workforce members. How do you recruit, hire, place, and retain your new workforce members? How do you ensure that your workforce represents the diverse ideas, cultures, and thinking of your hiring and student community? Third, work accomplishment. How do you organize and manage your workforce? How do you organize and manage your workforce to accomplish your organization's work, capitalize on your organization's core competencies, reinforce a focus on students, other customers, and student learning, and exceed performance expectations? Fourth, workforce change management. How do you prepare your workforce for changing capability and capacity needs? How do you manage your workforce, its needs, and your organization's needs to ensure continuity, prevent workforce reductions, and minimize the impact of such reductions if they become necessary? Prepare for and manage periods of workforce growth, and prepare your workforce for changes in organizational structure and work systems when needed. B. Workforce climate. First, workplace environment. How do you ensure workplace health, security, and accessibility for the workforce? What are your performance measures and improvement goals for your workplace environmental factors? For your different workplace environments, what significant differences are there in these factors and their performance measures or targets? Second, workforce benefits and policies. How do you support your workforce via services, benefits, and policies? How do you tailor this to the needs of a diverse workforce and different workforce groups and segments? What key benefits do you offer your workforce? 5.2 Workforce engagement. How do you engage your workforce to achieve a high-performance work environment for 45 points? In your response, include answers to the following questions. For letter A, workforce engagement and performance. First, organizational culture. How do you foster an organizational culture that's characterized by open communication, high performance, and an engaged workforce? How do you ensure that your organizational culture benefits from the diverse ideas, cultures, and thinking of your workforce? How do you empower your workforce? Second, drivers of engagement. How do you determine the key drivers of workforce engagement? How do you determine these drivers for different workforce and groups and segments? Third, assessment of engagement. How do you assess workforce engagement? What formal and informal assessment methods and measures do you use to determine workforce engagement, including satisfaction? How do these methods and measures differ across workforce groups and segments? How do you also use other indicators such as workforce retention, absenteeism, grievances, safety, and productivity to assess and improve workforce engagement? Fourth, performance management. How does your workforce performance management system support high performance and workforce engagement? How does it consider workforce compensation, reward, recognition, and incentive practices? How does it reinforce intelligent risk taking to achieve innovation, a focus on students, other customers, and student learning, and achievement of your action plans? B. Workforce and leader development. First, learning and development system. How does your learning and development system support the organization's needs and the personal development of your workforce members, managers, and leaders? How does the system address your organization's core competencies, strategies, strategic challenges, and achievement of short and long-term action plans? Support organizational performance improvement, organizational change and innovation. Support ethics and ethical business practices. Improve focus on students and other customers. Ensure the transfer of knowledge from departing or retiring workforce members. And ensure the reinforcement of new knowledge and skills for the job. Second, learning and development effectiveness. How do you evaluate the effectiveness and efficiency of your learning and development system? How do you correlate learning and development outcomes with findings from your assessment of workforce engagement, and with key organizational results reported in Category 7, and use these correlations to identify opportunities for improvement in both workforce engagement and learning and development offerings. Third, career progression. How do you manage career progression of your organization? How do you manage career development for your workforce? How do you carry out succession planning for management and leadership positions? Here's the sixth criterion, which is operations for 85 points. The operations category asks how your organization designs, manages, improves, and innovates its educational programs and services and its work processes, and how it improves operational effectiveness to deliver value to students and other customers and to achieve ongoing organizational success. 6.1 Work Processes. How do you design, manage, and improve your key educational programs and services and your key work processes for 45 points? In your response, include answers to the following questions. First, program, service, and process requirements. How do you determine key educational program and service and work process requirements? What are your organization's key work processes? What are the key requirements for these work processes? Second, design concepts. How do you design your educational programs and services and work processes to meet requirements? How do you incorporate new technology, environmental knowledge, program and service excellence, customer value, and the potential need for agility into these programs, services, and processes? B. Process management. First, process implementation. How does your day-to-day operation of work processes ensure that they meet key process requirements? What key performance measures or indicators and process measures do you use to control and improve your work processes? How do these measures relate to the quality of outcomes and the performance of your educational programs and services? Second, support processes. How do you determine your key support processes? What are your key support processes? How does your day-to-day operation of these processes ensure that they meet key organizational support and requirements? Third, program, service, and process improvement. How do you improve your work processes to increase student learning, improve educational programs and services and performance, enhance your core competencies, and reduce variability? C. Innovation management. How do you manage for innovations? How do you pursue the strategic opportunities that you determine are intelligent risk? How do you make financial and other resources available to pursue these opportunities? How do you discontinue pursuing education opportunities at the appropriate time to enhance support for higher priority opportunities? 6.2 Operational Effectiveness. How do you ensure effective management of your operations for 40 points? In your response, include answers to the following questions. Process efficiency and effectiveness. How do you control the overall cost of your operations? How do you incorporate cycle time, productivity, and other efficiency and effectiveness factors into your work processes? How do you prevent errors and rework? How do you minimize the cost of inspections, test, and process or performance audits as appropriate and balance, and the need for cost control with the needs of your students and other customers? B. Supply chain management. How do you manage your supply chain? How do you select suppliers and ensure that they are qualified and positioned to not only meet operational needs but also enhance your performance and your students and other customer satisfaction? How do you measure and evaluate your suppliers' performance, provide feedback to your suppliers to help them improve, and deal with them poorly performing suppliers? C. Safety and emergency preparedness. First, safety. How do you provide a safe operating environment? How does your safety system address accident prevention, inspection, root cause analysis of failures, and recovery? Second, emergency preparedness. How do you ensure that your organization is prepared for disasters or emergencies? How does your disaster and emergency preparedness system consider prevention, continuity of operations, and recovery? How does your disaster and emergency preparedness system take your reliance on suppliers and partners into account? The last criterion is the results for 450 points. The results category asks about your organization performance and improvement in all key areas. student learning and process results, customer focus results, workforce focus results, leadership governance results, and budgetary, financial, and market results. The category asks about performance levels relative to those of competitors and other organizations with similar educational program and service offerings. 7.1 Student Learning and Process Results. What are your student learning and process effectiveness results for 120 points? A. Student learning and customer-focused service results. What are your results for student learning and for your students and other customer service processes? What are your current levels and trends in key measures or indicators of student learning outcomes and the performance of services that are important to and directly serve your students and other customers? How do these results compare with the performance of your competitors and other organizations with similar offerings? How do these results differ by educational programs and service offerings, student and other customer groups, and market segments as appropriate? B. Work process effectiveness results. First, process effectiveness and efficiency. What are your process effectiveness and efficiency results? What are your current levels and trends in key measures or indicators of the operational performance of your key work and support processes, including productivity, cycle time, and other appropriate measures of process effectiveness, efficiency, and innovation? How do these results compare with the performance of your competitors and other organizations with similar processes? How do these results differ by process types as appropriate? Second, emergency preparedness. What are your emergency preparedness results? What are your current levels and trends in key measures or indicators of the effectiveness of your organization's preparedness for disasters or emergencies? How do these results differ by location or process type as appropriate? C. Supply chain management results. What are your supply chain management results? What are your results for key measures or indicators of the performance of your supply chain, including its contribution to enhancing your performance? 7.2 Customer Focus Results. What are your customer focus performance results for 80 points? A. Student and other customer focus results. Student other customer satisfaction. What are your student other customer satisfaction and dissatisfaction results? What are your current levels and trends in key measures or indicators of student and other customer satisfaction and dissatisfaction? How do these results compare with those of your competitors and other organizations providing similar educational programs and services? How do these results differ by educational program and service offerings, student and other customer groups, and market segments as appropriate? Second, student and other customer engagement. What are your students and other customer engagement results? What are your current levels and trends in key measures or indicators of student and other customer engagement, including those for building relationships with students and other customers? How do these results compare over the course of your students and other customers' relationships with you as appropriate? How do these results differ by educational program and service offerings, student and other customer groups, and market segments as appropriate? 7.3 Workforce Focus Results. What are your workforce focused performance results for 80 points? A. Workforce focus results. First, workforce capability and capacity. What are your workforce capability and capacity results? What are your current levels and trends in key measures of workforce capability and capacity, including appropriate skills and staffing levels? How do these results differ by the diversity of your workforce and by your workforce groups and segments as appropriate? Second, workforce climate. What are your workforce climate results? What are your current levels and trends in key measures or indicators of your workforce climate, including those for workforce health, safety, and security, and workforce services and benefits as appropriate? How do these results differ by the diversity of your workforce and by your workforce groups and segments as appropriate? Third, workforce engagement. What are your workforce engagement results? What are your current levels and trends in key measures or indicators of workforce satisfaction and workforce engagement? How do these results differ by the diversity of your workforce and by your workforce groups and segments as appropriate? Fourth, workforce development. What are the workforce and leader development results? What are your current levels and trends in key measures or indicators of workforce and leader development? How do these results differ by the diversity of your workforce and by your workforce groups and segments as appropriate? 7.4 Leadership and Governance Results. What are your senior leadership and governance results for 80 points? Leadership. What are your results for senior leaders' communication and engagement with the workforce, students, and other customers? What are your results for key measures or indicators of senior leaders' communication and engagement with the workforce, students, and other customers who deploy your vision and values, encourage two-way communication, and create a focus on action? How do these results differ by organizational unit and student and other customer groups as appropriate? Second, governance. What are your results for governance accountability? What are your key current findings and trends in key measures or indicators of governance and internal and external fiscal accountability as appropriate? Third, law, regulation, and accreditation. What are your legal, regulatory, and accreditation results? What are your results for key measures or indicators of meeting and surpassing regulatory, legal, and accreditation requirements? How do these results differ by organizational units as appropriate? Fourth, ethics. What are your results for ethical behavior? What are your results for key measures or indicators of ethical behavior, breaches of ethical behavior, and stakeholder trust in your senior leaders and governance? How do these results differ by organizational units as appropriate? Fifth, society. What are the results for societal responsibilities and support of your key communities? What are your results for key measures or indicators of your fulfillment of your societal responsibilities and support of your key communities? B. Strategy implementation results. What are your results for the achievement of your organizational strategy and action plans? What are your results for key measures or indicators of the achievement of your organizational strategy and action plans? What are your results for building and strengthening core competencies? What are your results for taking intelligent risks? 7.5 Budgetary, Financial, and Market Results. What are your budgetary, financial, and market performance? A. Budgetary, financial, and market results. First, budgetary financial performance. What are your financial performance results? What are your current levels and trends in key measures or indicators of budgetary and financial performance, including aggregate measures of cost containment, financial viability, and budgetary performance as appropriate? How do these results differ by market segments and student and other customer groups as appropriate? Second, market performance. What are your market performance results? What are your current levels and trends in key measures or indicators of market performance, including market share or position, market and market share growth, and new markets entered as appropriate? How do these results differ by market segments and student and other customer groups as appropriate? Okay, thank you very much. And that was my report about Philippine Quality Award. And stay safe and God bless us all.